In a world that thrives on noise, chaos, and competition, calmness has become a rare form of power. While most people rush to react, explain, and prove, those who remain still hold a strength that words cannot describe. Calmness is not a sign of weakness. It is the mark of someone who has learned to trust something higher than themselves. When everything around you is breaking down, when people are losing patience, when the world demands immediate answers, calmness becomes a shield of wisdom that separates the grounded from the restless. It is the quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, and I know who stands with me. The calm person is not without storms. They simply refuse to be ruled by them. This kind of calm does not come naturally. It is forged in the fires of pressure, disappointment, and misunderstanding. It grows in the soul that has faced chaos and discovered that peace is not found in the absence of problems, but in the presence of God. Calmness is an act of faith. It is the decision to remain composed when every emotion demands reaction. It is the trust that God's timing is perfect even when everything feels delayed. It is the refusal to let temporary noise destroy permanent peace. The calm soul knows that no matter how fierce the situation looks, God's hand is still writing the story. This awareness transforms fear into focus, noise into clarity, and panic into power. When you carry calmness, you carry control. Not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that governs yourself. The world teaches that power is about how loud you can be, how much influence you can show, and how quickly you can respond. But true power is the ability to pause. It is the ability to listen when others shout, to think when others react, to wait when others rush. Calmness gives you space to see clearly what emotion tries to blur. It allows you to step outside of the storm and see the bigger picture that God is revealing. While others drown in details, the calm spirits stand. DS on wisdom's shore, seeing where the current leads. Your calmness unsettles those who cannot control you. It confuses those who feed on reaction. When you do not respond to provocation, they wonder what gives you such restraint. They interpret silence as indifference, but in truth, it is strength. You cannot fight chaos with chaos. You overcome it with composure. Every time you choose calmness, you declare that you are led by peace, not pressure. And this kind of strength is divine. It is not arrogance. It is alignment. You are aligned with heaven's rhythm, not the world's rush. When others demand explanation, you choose stillness because you know that clarity will come in God's time, not theirs. Calmness also protects your purpose. In moments of frustration, one wrong word can destroy what took years to build. But when you remain calm, you give wisdom the chance to speak before emotion does. You preserve your dignity, your focus, and your grace. God uses calmness as a filter, separating what deserves your attention from what is meant to distract you. Every storm will pass, but not every storm deserves a reaction. Some moments require silence, because silence is where your discernment matures. The more calm you become, the more you begin to understand that not everything deserves a response, especially when your peace is more valuable than proving a point. To be calm in chaos is to be unshaken in faith. It is to stand like a tree rooted in God's soil, unmoved by the winds of circumstance. Calmness is not pretending everything is fine. It is knowing that even if it's not, you will still be fine because God is in control. Every breath of calmness is a prayer that says, I trust you more than I trust my fear. The world will always be loud, demanding, and unpredictable. But when your spirit remains anchored in divine peace, no storm can uproot you. Your calmness becomes your testimony. Your silence becomes your strength. And your peace becomes your proof that God's whiz. Dom is guiding your every step. Calmness is not a personality trait. It is a spiritual discipline that reflects deep maturity. It is the fruit of a heart that has been tested, broken, and rebuilt under the guidance of divine wisdom. True calmness is not about pretending that nothing affects you. It is about knowing that nothing has the right to control you anymore. When someone reaches a point of spiritual maturity, they begin to understand that emotions are meant to be managed, not obeyed. The calm spirit does not react to every voice, every rumor, or every pressure. It listens more than it speaks, prays more than it complains, and observes before deciding. That kind of peace does not come overnight. It is cultivated through consistent surrender. Every time you choose to respond with grace instead of anger, with patience instead of panic, you train your soul to follow the voice of God instead of the noise of people. Calmness is a reflection of inner order. It shows that the heart has learned to trust that everything will unfold exactly as it should, because it is no longer driven by fear of the unknown, but by faith in divine timing. The calm soul no longer sees delay as denial or silence as absence. It understands that there are lessons hidden in waiting and strength hidden in restraint. Many people equate activity with progress, but spiritual maturity knows that stillness can sometimes move mountains more effectively than noise ever could. The calm person has learned that reacting too quickly can destroy what patience could have saved. They know that sometimes the wisest response is none at all. This is not indifference, it is discernment. Calmness allows God to work in the unseen while you stay grounded in faith. When you are spiritually mature, you stop fighting for control and start resting in trust. You realize that peace is not passive. It is a conscious decision to align your emotions with heaven's rhythm. You start to notice that your calmness becomes contact. Ayus. Your presence brings stability to others because you carry an atmosphere of trust. You become a mirror of divine order in a disordered world. Spiritual maturity also teaches that calmness is an act of courage. It takes bravery to remain composed when everything is uncertain. It takes strength to keep your tone soft when others raise theirs, to remain kind when treated unfairly, and to stay focused when distractions come from every direction. Calmness is the armor of those who have been through storms and realize that panic never helped them survive one. It is the mark of someone who has seen enough to know that worry changes nothing, but faith changes everything. The calm spirit understands that emotional discipline is not about suppressing feelings, but about surrendering them to God. It is saying, I feel the pressure, but I choose peace. It is refusing to let fear write the next sentence of your story. Calmness is maturity because it demonstrates mastery, not over circumstances, but over yourself. It is the steady flame that burns when others flicker, the quiet strength that endures when others break. And in that calmness, heaven recognizes your growth, for only those who trust the divine process can remain still when everything else demands reaction. When you begin to walk in calmness, something unusual happens. People start to misunderstand you. They cannot comprehend how you remain so composed when others would explode. They expect noise, anger, or reaction, but you give them silence, and that silence unsettles them. Your calmness confuses them because it disrupts their control. People who live off conflict and manipulation lose their power when you refuse to engage. They realize that they cannot influence what they cannot disturb. Your calmness becomes a mirror that reflects their own instability. It exposes how much noise they need to feel relevant. When you no longer respond to provocation, those who thrive on chaos begin to lose their grip. That is why. Your peace irritates those who are trapped in inner turbulence. They cannot understand that your calmness is not a lack of awareness. It is divine awareness. You are not ignoring what is happening. You are simply seeing it from a higher place. You understand that reaction feeds confusion, while silence feeds wisdom. Calmness also threatens those who depend on your emotional response to feel powerful. Some people do not want resolution, they want reaction. They want to pull you into their storm so that they can feel in control again. But when you remain calm, you take away their weapon. Your refusal to respond becomes your greatest defense. Every unbothered breath you take is an act of rebellion against manipulation. Calmness breaks the cycle of drama because it refuses to add energy to negativity. The one who remains calm is always the one in control. You begin to see that your silence speaks louder than your words ever could. It says, I am not available for this energy. My peace is too valuable. Your calmness creates confusion because it operates on a frequency that the world does not understand. It is divine discipline in human form, a spiritual shield that no insult, accusation, or misunderstanding can penetrate. This confusion is not meant to harm you. It is meant to separate you. God uses your calmness as a filter to reveal who truly understands your spirit and who only understands your reactions. Those who love your peace will rise with you. Those who resent it were never meant to walk beside you. Your calmness becomes a light that exposes hidden motives. When you stop reacting, truth begins to surface. The ones who once provoked you will start revealing themselves without your involvement. That is the beauty of divine calmness. It does not just protect you, it reveals what needs to be removed. You start realizing that your silence is not empty, it is full of God's wisdom, quietly working in the background. Every moment you choose peace over reaction, you step deeper into divine authority. And in that authority, confusion becomes your confirmation that your calmness is working. It is proof that you have grown beyond the reach of petty energy, that you are now guarded not by walls, but by wisdom. Wisdom does not arrive with noise or grand announcements. It enters softly in the quiet places of the soul. It speaks to those who have learned to be still enough to listen. Calmness and wisdom are inseparable because both require silence to thrive. When you are calm, your spiritual hearing becomes sharper. You begin to sense what others overlook. You recognize that the answers you've been chasing are often found in moments of stillness, not in constant motion. God's wisdom hides itself in the calm because only the patient can receive it. When you quiet your emotions, you make space for divine understanding to enter. The wisdom of God often contradicts the urgency of man. While the world says, act now, God says, wait. While others panic over what they see, wisdom allows you to discern what is unseen. In the calm, you begin to understand that rushing often ruins what waiting would have perfected. Stillness is the gateway to divine perspective. When you stop forcing outcomes and start trusting divine timing, wisdom reveals layers of truth that emotion had hidden. The person who learns to wait in silence gains an advantage, not because they know everything, but because they are guided by something greater than their own intellect. Wisdom is not found in noise, it grows in reflection. The more you learn to quiet your spirit, the more you hear God's direction. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is pause, breathe, and let understanding rise from within. God speaks in whispers because he wants you to draw near, to listen not with your ears, but with your heart. The calm mind becomes his meeting place, a temple of clarity where divine strategies are birthed. This is why wisdom does not visit the restless heart. It rests in Tshe, those who know how to wait. Shabershi. God's wisdom doesn't always make sense in the moment. It often leads you to pause when everyone else is pushing forward, to stay silent when others are shouting, to stand still when everyone is running. But later, when everything unfolds, you realize that stillness saved you. Many mistakes are avoided in silence. Many conflicts end before they begin simply because wisdom told you not to respond. Calmness gives you the strength to act out of understanding rather than impulse. It is in stillness that discernment becomes sharper. You begin to see people's true intentions, the right timing for every decision, and the hidden meaning behind events. God's wisdom never rushes. And when you live by that wisdom, neither do you. You walk slower but see clearer. You move less but achieve more. And while others are drained from constant noise, you remain renewed, guided, and protected by the quiet force of divine understanding. The greatest conflict in life is not between you and the world. It is between your ego and your spirit. The ego demands reaction. The spirit seeks reflection. The ego wants to be right. The spirit wants to be righteous. Every moment of tension becomes a battlefield where these two forces wrestle for control. The ego feeds on pride, validation, and the need to prove itself. It whispers, show them, defend yourself, don't let anyone disrespect. But the spirit anchored in divine wisdom, gently says, "Be still. Let God handle what your words cannot." Calmness is proof that the Spirit has won. It shows that you have chosen alignment over argument, patience over pride, faith over fury. The ego wants to respond instantly, but the Spirit waits for divine timing. Every time you choose not to react in anger, you silence the ego's voice and strengthen the authority of your spirit. Calmness is not suppression. It is mastery. It means you are no longer a slave to emotion, but a steward of peace. The battle between ego and spirit is constant because both seek your attention. The ego thrives in chaos. The spirit thrives in stillness. The ego feels powerful when it speaks loudly, but the spirit feels powerful when it listens deeply. The ego looks for applause. The spirit seeks approval from God. When calmness governs your actions, it means you have learned to shift your power source. You no longer need to prove who you are. You know who you are. The Spirit gives you the confidence to remain silent when others demand a reaction, to remain peaceful even when provoked, to walk away from arguments that would only lower your vibration. This is not weakness. It is elevation. You rise above the noise because you understand that responding to every attack drains your anointing. The more you listen to the Spirit, the more you realize that not every battle is meant to be fought. Some are meant to be outlasted. True warriors fight quietly. They do not waste energy proving their strength. They demonstrate it through restraint. The ego wants visible victory, but the Spirit seeks inner victory. Calmness is the evidence that the war inside you has been won. When your heart remains steady, no matter the chaos outside, you have reached a higher level of control. This is what it means to walk under divine command. God trains his strongest soldiers in silence. He teaches them to move with wisdom, not emotion. The moment you master your reaction, you master your destiny. Every word left unsaid becomes a wall of protection. Every moment of silence becomes a seed of strength. In this quiet discipline, you discover that peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the triumph of the Spirit over the ego. The calm soul no longer needs to shout to be heard. Its peace speaks louder than any noise could ever compete with. There is a level of protection that only divine wisdom can provide. It shields you from dangers you cannot see and from traps that emotions would easily fall into. When you are guided by God's wisdom, your calmness becomes a spiritual defense system. It allows you to sense when something is wrong without reacting to it. You begin to notice how wisdom redirects your steps, not through force, but through peace. The voice of wisdom is often quiet, but it is consistent. It tells you when to stay, when to move, and when to remain silent. Many people get hurt because they act from emotion rather than revelation. Emotion makes quick decisions, but wisdom waits for divine instruction. Calmness creates the space where that instruction can be heard clearly. When your mind is at rest, you can feel the gentle pull of God's guidance steering you away from things that look good but aren't good for you. This is how divine wisdom protects, through quiet redirection. Every time you choose to pause before reacting, you activate protection. The enemy wants you to move impulsively because rash actions create openings for regret. But when you are calm, you give God time to intervene. You begin to notice how situations that could have exploded suddenly lose their power, how things meant to destroy your peace somehow end up building your character. That is divine wisdom at work. It is not always about avoiding conflict. Sometimes it is about being guarded in conflict. You may not always see what God is preventing, but when you stay calm, you stay covered. The wisdom of God operates like a shield around your thoughts. It prevents you from saying words that could wound, from making choices that could backfire, from walking into traps designed to provoke you. Calmness is not passivity. It is divine strategy. It is moving in sync with the rhythm of heaven instead of reacting to the rhythm of chaos. Those who live in constant noise rarely recognize when they are being led into danger. But those who dwell in peace can sense the shift in spiritual atmosphere. God's wisdom is not loud, but it is unmistakable. It speaks through peace. If something costs you your calmness, it's not from Him. When you learn to fall, Our peace as your guide, you begin to realize that it always leads to protection. Sometimes that protection comes in the form of people leaving your life. Sometimes it comes as a delay that feels frustrating, but later proves to be a blessing. Calmness allows you to see these things not as losses, but as divine safeguards. You start trusting that if something didn't happen, it's because you were being protected, not punished. God's wisdom guards not only your path, but also your heart, ensuring that your peace remains untouched by the noise of the world. Silence is often misunderstood. Many people see it as a sign of weakness, avoidance, or surrender. But in truth, silence is a weapon sharpened by wisdom. It is a language that only the spiritually mature can understand. When you choose silence, you are not ignoring the problem. You are elevating above it. You are refusing to let chaos dictate your behavior. The world is loud, and in that noise, silence becomes revolutionary. It unsettles people who expect reaction because they do not know how to interpret calmness. Yet the most powerful responses are often unspoken. Silence allows truth to reveal itself without your interference. It preserves your dignity, protects your energy, and gives space for God to move on your behalf. The misunderstood strength of silence lies in its ability to say everything without saying a word. It communicates control, discernment, and peace, qualities that noise can never express. When you stay silent, you are not losing your voice. You are guarding its power. Words carry weight, and not every situation deserves the power of your speech. Silence teaches discipline. It reminds you that not every attack needs a defense. Not every misunderstanding needs correction, and not every criticism needs acknowledgement. There is strength in watching events unfold without being drawn into the mess of reaction. When you remain silent, you position yourself above the chaos. Silence is not empty. It's full of awareness. It gives you time to observe what is truly happening instead of what it seems like on the surface. It keeps you grounded when emotions try to push you into foolish decisions. The calm soul knows that sometimes letting people speak exposes them more than any argument ever could. In silence, you give space for truth to separate itself from deception. There is also divine favor that rests upon those who remain silent when provoked. God takes the battles you refuse to fight and turns them into victories that speak louder than words. When you do not defend yourself, heaven does it for you. Silence becomes a way of saying, God, I trust you to handle this better than I can. The misunderstood strength of silence is that it allows God to display his power through your restraint. Those who misunderstood your silence will one day witness the results of your peace. Your calmness will reveal what your words never could. That true power does not need to prove itself. It only needs to remain still long enough for God's plan to unfold. In silence, you are not losing. You are positioning yourself for divine vindication. The calm are often misunderstood, but they are also tested the most. The world will always try to shake what it cannot comprehend. When you walk in peace, life will send storms just to see if your calmness is real. Every challenge, every provocation, every delay becomes a test of your inner stability. It's as if the universe asks, do you truly trust, or is your peace dependent on comfort? The calm soul is not exempt from trials. It is refined by them. These tests are not punishments. They are confirmations. They prove that what God has built inside you cannot be destroyed by what happens outside you. When you refuse to react, you begin to see that every test carries hidden instruction. Some tests come to expose weakness, others to strengthen faith, and many to reveal how far you've come in mastering yourself. The world may see stillness as stagnation, but heaven sees it as maturity under fire. Those who provoke your peace are not always enemies. Sometimes they are teachers. They reveal where your growth is incomplete. Every time you're tempted to lose control, but don't, you are being promoted in the spirit. Calmness during conflict is like gold refined in heat. It shines brighter because of the pressure. You start realizing that your peace is not fragile, it's forged. The more the world tries to shake you, the deeper your roots grow. Those who thrive on drama will keep testing you because they can't stand what they can't control. but their attempts only expose their instability, not yours. Your calmness frustrates them because it highlights their lack of it. In this way, even your tests become testimonies. You don't need to defend your peace defends you. What was meant to provoke you ends up proving your strength. Hebrew God allows these tests not to break you, but to prepare you. Every test of patience increases your discernment. Every encounter with chaos teaches you how to carry peace into darker spaces. When you respond calmly, heaven celebrates because it means you have chosen the divine over the human. Each time you pass such a test, your wisdom deepens, your discernment sharpens, and your faith solidifies. The calm soul learns to see tests as opportunities, to show the world that peace is not a temporary state of mind, but a permanent posture of faith. Eventually, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start saying, this is happening for me, because you know that each test of your calmness refines you into the image of divine strength. What once provoked you now polishes you. What once disturbed your peace now proves that it was never fragile. It was sacred. Every time you resist the urge to react, something powerful happens inside you. Instead of pouring energy into conflict, you create room for revelation. Reaction is quick, emotional, and temporary. Revelation is quiet, lasting, and divine. When you pause before responding, heaven speaks in that silence. God begins to show you things you couldn't see when you were consumed by emotion. The moment you choose calmness, your spiritual senses open. You begin to perceive the deeper reason behind the event, the lesson hidden beneath the tension. What looked like an attack might actually be an invitation to grow. What felt like rejection may be redirection. The divine exchange happens here. Every reaction you surrender is replaced by revelation from above. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? Calmness becomes the bridge between confusion and clarity. Revelation is only received by those who have learned the discipline of stillness. The impatient heart cannot hear divine instruction. It is too full of its own noise. But the calm spirit becomes a vessel for wisdom. In that quiet space, you begin to see how every situation is divinely connected. The pieces that didn't make sense before start aligning. You realize that some delays were actually protection, some losses were preparation, and some closed doors were saving you from destruction. This kind of clarity only comes to those who have learned to pause instead of panic. When you stop reacting, you make room for heaven to download understanding into your spirit. You begin to sense that revelation is not something you chase. It's something that comes to you when your heart is still. Every moment of calmness invites divine insight. Every silence births new understanding, and every act of restraint becomes a doorway to higher wisdom. When you learn to exchange reaction for revelation, your entire outlook on life transforms. You stop wasting time fighting small battles and start focusing on divine strategy. You begin to see beyond the surface of situations. What others interpret as loss, you interpret as repositioning. What they call delay, you recognize as divine PA. Sing. This shift in perception gives you freedom because you no longer live at the mercy of emotion. You live by revelation. Calmness becomes your connection point with God's voice, and that voice never leads to confusion. It gives you peace that logic cannot explain. You realize that reacting gives away your power, but revelation gives back your purpose. And when you walk with revelation, every storm becomes a lesson, every pain becomes preparation, and every silence becomes sacred communication between your spirit and the wisdom of God. Walking in peace that cannot be provoked is not about living a life without challenges. It's about developing a state of inner control that no challenge can disturb. There is a difference between having peace and being peace. Many people think peace is what happens when everything is calm around them, but true peace is what remains when everything is collapsing. It is a steady rhythm in your soul that cannot be shaken by temporary storms. This peace is not dependent on circumstances. It flows from connection with God. When you reach this level of calmness, you no longer need everything to be perfect to feel safe. You realize that peace is not the absence of noise, but the presence of divine order inside you. This kind of peace silences confusion before it begins, and it shields your mind from unnecessary chaos. You stop seeking calm situations and start carrying calmness into every situation. Wherever you go, you bring stability, because the peace within you is stronger than the pressure around you. To walk in peace that cannot be provoked is to master the art of remaining composed even in confrontation. It is not that you are unaware of what's happening. It's that you refuse to give power to what doesn't deserve it. When people try to provoke you, when situations try to unbalance you, you respond with the serenity of someone who knows that nothing can touch what God protects. This peace is power. It is authority in silence. It disarms. Anger, it confuses darkness, and it stops manipulation in its tracks. When you operate in peace, you operate from a higher frequency than conflict. You start to understand that chaos cannot survive in an atmosphere of calm. It loses its grip because peace carries divine energy that transforms the environment. The unprovoked soul is untouchable, not because it avoids problems, but because it confronts them without losing composure. That is the power of walking with peace that comes from heaven. It doesn't react, it radiates. As this peace deepens, you begin to feel the freedom of not being controlled by outside forces. What once triggered you no longer moves you. The same situations that used to drain your energy now strengthen your discernment. This peace changes how you walk, how you speak, how you decide. You no longer rush into explanations or defend your truth to those who are committed to misunderstanding it. You rest, knowing that your calmness is your witness. It is the evidence of divine maturity and spiritual authority. When your peace cannot be provoked, you live in a state of quiet strength that cannot be shaken by lies, criticism, or chaos. God's presence becomes your foundation, and His wisdom becomes your response. You move through life untouched by confusion because you have learned that peace is not something you visit. It is something you become. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are reflecting heaven. And when you live from that space, you don't just survive the storm, you silence it. Calmness always carries a reward, though it may not be immediate or visible at first. Every time you hold your peace instead of reacting, you are sowing a seed into your own destiny. God notices restraint just as much as He notices faith. When you remain calm under pressure, you demonstrate that you trust His control more than your own understanding. And that trust is never wasted. It becomes the foundation for divine promotion. The calm spirit attracts blessings that emotional instability would repel. People may overlook you because you are quiet, but God elevates you precisely because you don't move in noise. Calmness builds credibility, strength, and influence without you ever having to force it. Over time, others begin to notice that you carry a peace that cannot be imitated. They start to respect the stillness they once misunderstood. That's the reward of calmness. It changes how heaven sees you and eventually how the world does too. This divine reward also manifests in the way your relationships and reputation are preserved. Many conflicts begin and grow because people speak too soon or act too fast. Calmness gives you the ability to respond thoughtfully, not emotionally. It protects your words from becoming weapons against yourself. The one who stays calm never has to apologize for something said in anger. Your restraint becomes a form of wisdom that keeps your integrity intact. God honors that kind of discipline. He promotes those who can handle power without pride, criticism without collapse, and misunderstanding without retaliation. Calmness builds bridges where anger would have burned them. It softens hearts, diffuses tension, and opens doors that rage would have slammed shut. The reward is not just peace of mind, it is favor, clarity, and long-term success. Those who walk calmly through storms often emerge trusted, respected, and blessed in ways that the reactive never experience. But perhaps the greatest reward of divine calmness is the transformation it brings within you. When you live calmly, Your soul becomes a sanctuary instead of a battlefield. You begin to think more clearly, love more deeply, and hear God more distinctly. Anxiety loses its grip because you no longer let circumstances dictate your peace. Calmness matures your spirit until you reach a place where nothing external can disturb what God has established internally. This inner peace becomes a permanent state, not a passing feeling. In peace, at stillness, you discover that the real reward is not what calmness brings you, it's what calmness makes of you. You become wiser, stronger, and more aligned with the heart of God. The calm spirit doesn't just survive chaos, it transforms it. Every storm you walk through becomes proof that divine peace is not just your shield, it's your signature. The calm spirit eventually becomes a light to others. When people see someone who walks through fire without panic, it awakens something inside them. Your peace becomes a silent sermon, preaching louder than any words ever could. Others may not understand how you remain composed when everything around you screams for a reaction, but that confusion becomes curiosity. They begin to wonder what you know that they don't. They start to sense that there's a higher power guarding your heart. In a world addicted to outrage, your calmness becomes revolutionary. It stands out like a quiet flame that doesn't burn out. People are drawn to that light because deep down, everyone is tired of chaos. Your peace becomes evidence that God's wisdom is real, that His presence truly sustains those who trust Him. This is how calmness becomes ministry. It doesn't demand attention, it commands respect. It speaks to hearts without raising its voice. As your calmness continues to grow, it transforms not only how others see you, but also how they treat you. The same people who once tried to provoke you begin to approach you differently. They sense that there is something sacred about your composure, something not to be tampered with. You no longer need to defend yourself because your peace speaks louder than your explanations ever could. It's a spiritual authority that doesn't require noise to be felt. Those who carry divine calmness don't chase validation because they know peace is already proof of alignment with God. And in this quiet authority, you begin to see how power truly works, not through domination, but through self-control. You influence ENV. Ironments not by force, but by presence. You shift the energy of a room simply by entering it with serenity. This calm energy carries weight because it's not of this world, it's born from heaven. Eventually you realize that your calmness was never just about you, it was about what God wanted to show through you. Your peace becomes a vessel for His message, a demonstration that faith is not loud, that confidence doesn't need to argue, and that divine wisdom flows best through stillness. Every time you choose peace over reaction, you testify to the strength of the Spirit within you. That's why calm people often confuse those who live in constant defense or chaos. They can't grasp how someone can be strong without being loud. But that's the mystery of God's wisdom. It empowers you to conquer without conflict, to win without war. And when others witness that kind of victory, they begin to seek the same source. Your calmness becomes their invitation to God's peace. And through your example, they learn that the greatest power is not in the storm. It's in the stillness.